right, good afternoon, guys. It's a beautiful afternoon here in Spotsylvania County. I wanted to do a little video for you guys because I put up several cooking videos before, Facebook, I got one on YouTube, Snapchat, different things like that. And I always get really good comments on them. People like the recipes, want to use it, but the main thing that I always get is people asking me about my cast iron cookware. You know, where did I get it? How do I get into it? How do you keep it looking like that? And you know, I thought I'd give you a little video on some of that just to help you out, because I can't recommend cooking in cast iron enough. It's all I cook in, and my wife will cook in other things, who is my lovely videographer today, by the way. I cook exclusively in cast iron. I love it. I love the benefits of it. I love the fact that, you know, the stuff was used for hundreds of years. And as to my mind, it cooks stuff way better. It makes food taste better. So that being said, I didn't always know about cast iron. As a matter of fact, whenever Chanda and I got married, and that's coming up on 15 years this year, she came with these two pans right here, but they looked nothing like this. And what all these are is just some, they're Cracker Barrel edition Lodge skillets. You got a number 8 and a number 5 matching set. They both have the Cracker Barrel logo on. They looked horrible when we got married. There was sparse seasoning, there was crud, there was rust, and we had no idea what to do with any of this stuff. So finally one day, a few years back, I was rummaging around and thought, I want to learn how to cook in this stuff. This stuff it's got value and history to it, because people cooked in cast iron long before we had stainless steel pots or Teflon coated whatever. So I did what everybody does nowadays. I got on YouTube, and because I swear if you can get the plutonium, somebody's got a video out there to teach you how to build a nuclear reactor. You can find how to do anything on YouTube. And I did, and I ran across a couple of people that really made an impact, and I kind of blend their methods for me. You'll find what works best for you. That was Jeffrey B. Rogers. I believe his channel is called The Culinary Fanatic. Check him out. A lot of good cast iron cooking on there, and a lot of knowledge on cast iron. He's far more of a nerd than I am. And then you got old cowboy Kent Rollins, who my daughter absolutely loves. We never miss his videos. Does tons of cooking with iron, how to maintain iron, a lot of different cowboy recipes. So that being said, I learned from them, well, how do I basically start from scratch on a pan that, to my mind, just looked ruined? I mean, again, rust and gunk and no seasoning. It wasn't even black in places. What do I do? Simple enough. It's what I did to start this pan, but again, this was a pan I started with, and I didn't have the method that I have now. I kind of overdid it, so this reason we're going to strip this pan for you today, because it's kind of got a sticky feel to it and gummy. That's not at all what you're after. I mean, does it cook okay? Sure, but we can do better than this. So I'm going to take all of this seasoning off, and I'm going to take it right back down to bare iron, just like it came out of the mold. And we'll show you guys from scratch and how you can do this yourselves. And it's not a lot of effort. Initially, it's kind of time consuming just to get the pan started, but the upkeep is simple and it's great. So all what we're going to do is take this pan, and after I put it in the oven, I'm going to come back and show you an example, and then we'll stop this segment and kind of do some other things. But all in the world you're going to do is take your pan, whichever one you're stripping. I recommend trying to, if you're going to do several pieces, do as many as you can to fit your oven. This house that we just rented here in Virginia does not have the biggest oven. My house in Louisiana, I think I could do 6 pieces at a time, just depending on how I worked it in there. Here, I'm just going to do this one. But you take your piece, you put it in the oven, you put it down face down, like this right here. So all the crap and crud and everything else that burns off can fall down to the bottom in the self-clean cycle. Take it, put it in there, close it up, put it on self-clean cycle for 3 hours. Hit the button, let it lock up, and you're good to go. That thing's going to climb in Fahrenheit. I believe it's 2 degrees shy of hell, and so it should burn everything off of there, including some surface rust if you've got that on there. But that's the method that I use to clean this pan as well. What this is actually a lid from a combo cooker set that was made back in the late 40s and 50s. This actually belonged to my great-grandmother. And you see what it looks like today. It's still going extremely strong. Collector-wise, this is not something that anybody's gonna pay any money for. There are some pieces out there people pay $1,400–1,500 for. This ain't one. Nobody knows the exact manufacturer. They just call this an offset tab cooker because of the way the little tab on the end flips over, but that's not the point. This was my great-grandmother's. She cooked in this a lot, and when I got it like this, it looked like when I got the pan rather, it looked like she cooked in it a lot. It was completely unrecognizable from what you see today, and it's a situation a lot of you may run into as well if you were passed this down from your grandmother and what have. The spouts were completely healed over, if you will, with just caked on, baked on crud. You couldn't tell that it had a lid ring around it at all. It was smoothed over with just char and burn. The tab was completely filled up. You couldn't see that there was actually a hole in that tab anyway, at all. All in the world it took it to clean it and put it right back down to bare, and there was some rust on it too. Just what we just did with that pan right there. So if you can do that for this was probably the worst one that I've done as far as that. I promise you what you got, it'll take care of that too. I'm gonna let you know now, we're gonna have to alter this a little bit. This lovely oven that's in this rental, and I am glad that we got the house after a couple of months in a hotel. You're glad to get where you can get in a good school district. Yeah, this thing is put in there so great that no matter what I do, this oven door will not lock, so it won't go to self-clean cycle. So, I'm not gonna be able to visually show you bare iron and how to bring it back up. Matter of fact, I've got to figure out how I'm gonna take that one down eventually. Hopefully we won't be in this house forever. But that being said, we'll continue and soldier on and try and give you some just basics. It's not hard to do. I can explain it to you without it. I would have felt better if I could have shown you from the beginning so you could see the stark contrast from bare iron to black iron. But sorry guys, we got to do what we got to do because rental technical difficulties. So, since we can't take that pan down to bare iron, which is very disappointing, I'm pretty aggravated. It's all right, I can still show you the process because you can always reseason. I'll just reseason this pan for you and show you the process that you would do on there. You would do that process 3 times that we're gonna do to this pan. It's not hard. It's the same thing, it's just this already has a layer of seasoning on it. I was hoping to get that to bare iron for you to be able to show you. At any rate, things people always ask about is, where do I get cast iron? What do I look for in cast iron? Truthfully, if you're gonna buy cast iron today that's made in the USA, and that is important, and we'll come back to that in just a second, there's really only one company out there, that's Lodge. It's not really expensive and they make a good product, it's a fine product. Does it measure up to the old stuff? No, it does not. Where do you find the old stuff? Flea markets, your granny's cupboard, the antique stores if you feel like paying antique store prices. I don't. Just depends. At any rate, there's some differences in the old iron and the new iron. The new iron, which that pan is obviously new, made by Lodge. When you get it, you can get this stuff at Walmart. That pan that's in that oven that's not cooking right now, that's about a $20, $25 pan if you get it at Walmart from Lodge. It's not expensive, but if you look in here, it all looks like it comes pre-seasoned, and it has the pebbly texture of almost like a truck bed liner. Whereas we look at this pan right here, which is the same size, same company. This is a Lodge. This is just an older one. Look how smooth that is. You don't have that. Also, this pan is a lot lighter. All right. Well, people ask, well, why is that? It's the same thing. Well, the old iron. Can you come around here and look down? I want to make a demonstration here and see so people can see. The old iron. If you look, this is the exact same company. This is a Lodge, this is a Lodge. This was made before 1960. This was made probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it is the same mold that would be used today for this size pan. Look at the wall. the thickness of the wall. This pan's a lot thicker, weighs a whole lot more. And what about the pebbly finish? That's because nowadays, in order to save their business, Lodge does what they call a pre-seasoning. And in order to make that stick so that it comes to you when you buy it, it's black like this, they have to leave it rough. The old iron was sanded, machined, and smoothed out. And that's why the old iron being thinner and lighter and being a whole lot smoother is a lot more sought after than the new iron. And truthfully, if you know what you're doing, it cooks a whole lot better. There are some differences. You know, there's a lot of people that collect cast iron. You looking at this, you probably think you're one of them. No, I'm really not. People collect certain brands. They want to get complete sets of all the different sizes that are made. I just like to cook in cast iron. I like to cook in the old stuff. This pan was actually belonged to Chanda's grandmother. And I did the process on it after we got it that I would be doing to that pan right there, took it down to bare iron, and now you see what a good pan it is to cook in. But if you're going to buy old iron, there's some things to look for. Number one, how old is it? You know, after about 1960, I believe is the point of reference there. 1959, 1960 is a little bit of debate. The U.S. passed a law that all cast iron made in the United States had to be marked, stamped as such, made in the USA. Well, why is that important? Well, because at that time you had a lot of Asian knockoff. You had Korean factories that were putting out cast iron and sending it in, and they wanted to distinguish the stuff that was made in the U.S. Now today, that's a big issue. I say issue, consideration when you're buying a cast iron pan. Because if you go right now today, you go to your local Walmart, you go over in the camping section, which is where they typically have the Lodge cast iron pans. You'll find a Lodge cast iron pan, that the same size of a number 8 Lodge cast iron pan. And then right beside it will be a Ozark Trail, I believe it is, cast iron pan, and it'll be $10 less. Same pan, right? The difference is Ozark Trail, or whatever that brand is, made overseas. The iron, you can look at it and you can tell. To me, the new Lodges, I'm like, I stay away from that. I'll take a new Lodge any day over Ozark Trail or whatever that is, because if you look at it, I mean, the grain of the metal, it shows. They use a lot of recycled. They use recycled engine blocks and things like that, which sounds great. Oh, yeah, but there's a lot of other metal that gets mixed in with that. It's a much inferior metal. It does not hold the heat near as well. It feels like literal sandpaper. Your food it will stick, and it's just not worth the money. Spend the extra 10 bucks, get the Lodge, you got a much better product. But if you're buying, you want to buy some old cast iron because you're intrigued by the lightness of it, because your old Wagners, your old Lodges, your old Griswolds, they're so much lighter to cook in than the modern stuff, and the finish being smoother, it's a lot more non-stick once you get the pan seasoned. Well, there's a few things to look at. One of the main considerations is, how does it sit? Well, if you look at this pan right here, this is an old pan made before 1960. I've got this on a nice flat surface. If I hit that handle, it does not move. Now we're going to look at this Griswold, which is younger than this pan, because you can see here this Griswold, it does have the Made in the USA on it, on the bottom of it right here. I put this pan down and I hit it. See, it's got a little bit of motion, slightly warped. It's not bad enough for me to affect the cooking and the type of cooking I do. But then I've got another one I'm going to show you. This pan was given. This was a gift. It's an old Wagner, which would be a great pan to cook in. Wagner ware and Griswold, you can't go wrong if you find those pans. But if you set it on a flat surface right here, look at that thing. Barely touching it, and it'll just spin and spin and spin. It looks like, if you look at, you can't really see it looking on, probably on that camera, but it looks like it got hit with a cannonball on this side. It's warped. Now, why is that important? You're not going to get even heat distribution when you put it on your stove. It's going to cook unevenly. It's not going to do what you need it to do. That's the thing about cast iron, is it heats up and holds heat evenly, way better than other stuff. Once you get it hot, it'll stay hot, and then you have to learn to cook in it and adjust your temperatures according to your stove. But So anyway, that's the main thing that you're looking for. If you're looking for a certain brand, you want to be a collector, power to you. Me, I just look for good quality iron that I can cook in. Now, one thing you may run across is how do you tell how old something is? Well, I gave you one indicator there, the made in USA thing. It'll tell you it was made after 1960-ish. We'll go with that. And if it doesn't have that on there, you know it was a little older. But look at this pan right here. Now this pan, yeah, it's all pitted up and everything. We don't know the manufacturer on it. There's no way to tell. This is a number 7 size, which I don't know why, it just always appeals to me. But you see this right here, this big scar. That's called a gate mark. And this is from the casting process that they used prior to 1900. This all changed around 1900. So there's lots of pans that are out there that are still in service that are, could be literally hundreds of years old, and that's one of the easiest ways to tell how old it is if it has that gate mark on it. Now this pan, I found this at a nursery, landscaping area, and it was rusted up and I knew it, but I just couldn't resist it for the money. I mean, it cost me a few bucks, and you know, the history, how many meals has this thing cooked? You know, how many hands were on it before it got into this shape, before it got neglected and left out to just rust and die. But it's a great wall hanger piece, and if I wasn't in a rental and could hang things on the wall, this one would be up here, and so would that Wagner. The other reason I don't cook in this pan is not because of the pits, but if you hear that it's kind of dead, I know the camera won't pick it up, but I forget what side it's on. It's got a big crack in the wall. There it is right there. It's got a big crack, so it doesn't ring, and it's not good for cooking anymore. But it's just an interesting piece, and I wanted to show you guys how you can tell how old some things are. Now, do people still make good quality? Can you find good quality made in the U.S. Cast iron other than Lodge? You sure can, but you're going to pay for it. It's a very boutique thing nowadays, and I am enough of a nerd, and I thought I was going to get my head stomped in, but I bought a couple of those pans. There's several brands out there. I have 2 of them here, and this one's dirty on purpose because I'm going to show you how to clean cast iron here in a second. First pan we'll talk about here is a Stargazer. This is the same size as your typical Lodge. This is a number 8 size pan. But they've done some different things. It's made the old way. It's smooth. When you buy this pan, it's very smooth on the inside. It doesn't have that rough, pebbly texture surface to it. And if you come around here and show the pan, it's got some different features to it. Number 1, it doesn't have pour spouts. It's kind of got a rolled lip. The way the handle is attached here, this actually provides a lot of cooling. And whenever I heard that, I was like, yeah, right, it's iron. It's going to heat. No, I can grab this pan while it's cooking for a lot longer time than I can one of these type handles. It really does dissipate the heat quite well. Also, it's kind of rolled, and see how it's also kind of curved. It's very ergonomic. This acts as a spoon rest if you want to lay your spoon in there. It's also got this really big grab handle. They went with the old style logo on the bottom of it. Neat thing too is it's actually got the date on there that this thing was cast. And you can see the year is 1st, 2018, 0508. So it was made May 8th, 2018. So this pan, I intend to take care of it and let it outlive me. People can always go back and find out when it was made. The other boutique company pan that I own is made by a company called Field. They make great skillets. Love it. It's got many features that I like. I like features from both of these. This one just has a little more classic feel. It too, you can't tell it now because it's all cruddy, which we're gonna fix here in a minute. I intentionally burned some bacon this morning in here so that we'd have something to work with. But you can see the tab's a lot smaller. It's more of a traditional style handle. It doesn't have pour spouts on it either. Now this is a much larger pan. This is a number 10, but they have their logo on the bottom. Tells you it's a number 10, made in the USA, Field Company. There are other companies out there, but you're not going to be able to go in a store and buy these pans. You got to order them from the company direct online, and it's get ready to break out your wallet, and you'll see why I almost got my head caved in. The Stargazer is the less expensive of the two, and I think right now this pan is about $100. The Field is It's a little bit more than that. I think this size pan is like 125, 150, somewhere around in there. The other consideration now, they make different sizes. Stargazer has 2 sizes. They've got this size and they have this size pan, a little larger, their version of it. Field has now several of them. You got some companies out there, Finex, they make a full line. They kind of have an octagon shape to them. You've got Smithy and Butter Pat, which they make beautiful skillets, but for me it gets to be the law of diminishing returns. People say, well, you idiot, you paid $100 for that. Well, you know, I did it. I wanted it and had it at the time, and so I did it. And people can use that justification if they want to buy other brands. I think you're looking at right around $235 if you want to buy a Butter Pat. You're looking at close to $200 if you want to buy a Smithy. For me, it's law of diminishing returns. Is it going to cook any better than either of these 2 skillets? I'm going to go with probably not enough to justify that kind of price range. So we're going to get set up. We're going to stop the video here in a second. We're going to get set up, and I'm going to show you how you just daily use and care and cleanup of your cast iron. All right, so you know, I told you I was going to show you how to clean this thing and how to maintain it. And you'll do this every time you cook in it, and it's not hard and it takes no effort. All you got to do, and like I said, I intentionally burned bacon onto here because a lot of people cook bacon in cast iron. You can see it's all nice and cruddy and look at that, nice, right? But how do you get this off? Because the one thing you never do with cast iron, you never wash it with soap. You just don't do that. It'll eat at your seasoning, and you want to build your seasoning up over time. Because the more you cook in it and the more you use it, the more your seasoning builds up and the more nonstick it gets and the better taste in your food. So all in the world you're gonna do, and I've got these little things here. This is just a scraper made by Lodge. You can get these at Walmart back in the camping section. I ordered these, the same thing. They got tons of different little things. Some people use these little chain mail doohickeys here. Mainly, I just use these little scrapers and just the dual-sided sponge, you know, sponge on one side and this little scratchy pad on the other. That's really all you need. That and hot water. Hot water is the key. So we'll turn some hot water on, get this going, and I'll show you. Because again, this thing, I intentionally burned the bacon onto there so we'd have something to work with. We'll just kind of take this and just scrape it a little bit. You see it's coming off of there pretty good. And we'll get the rest of that in just a second. And this pan is pretty well seasoned, but I've got some that are actually seasoned better. So, and this was, again, after I intentionally burned this phone. And when you're doing it, I doubt my iPhone that Chanda's filming this with will pick all this up, but you can you can see where the little cruddy spots are, where a lot of that's still on there. You can get the most of it off. Nothing but hot water, rinse it off. Wipe it out real good. I always kind of go over it with the rough side because you can see where some stuff is still there. You can see it's a pretty well seasoned pan because it comes out looking like it's been, you know, waxed on a freshly waxed vehicle. How the water beads up. I still got a little area there. Just rub it with this pad with elbow grease. Dry it off, and you can see a lot better sometimes too. That pan's clean. All right, so what happens is if you do all that and you still got something, because I've had it happen to me, you still got some little spot and you can see it there and you can't quite get it off. Maybe you can feel it with your fingernail, but I just can't quite get it. There's lots of ways to do that. One of the simplest and the oldest tricks is take you some rock salt, just put it there on that spot, cut a potato in half, put that potato on that rock salt and scrub it. It'll get it right off. I use this thing sometimes. I don't like to use this too much because it is kind of hard on your seasoning and it'll, you know, beat it up pretty good, making you have to re-season it. more often, but you can see this thing, it still has a nice luster and shine to it. Now, again, this is a fairly well seasoned pan. Make sure it's dry inside and out, because this is the next step. And you do this every time you cook in it, and it builds up your seasoning more and more, and you don't have the sticking problems. I had to work to make the sticking happen that you saw with that. So currently we've got a gas stove, and we'll talk about that in a second. All in the world I do is I turn the gas on, turn the stove over. This particular stove, I turn it on between 3 and 4. Take my pan, set it down there, upside down, and it pops like this is an old rental. So anyway, I just set it on there, make sure that the fire is going. Fire is going. We're gonna let it just sit there and heat up, and we'll turn it over here in a little while. Just let the pan get hot, and while it's getting hot, we'll talk about, well, what do we season with, and this, that, and the other. What am I going to use? Because every time you cook in it, you're building up seasoning, but you want to add more. I use this product right here. It's called Buzzy Wax, BUZZYWAXX. You get it from buzzywax.com. Now, is this new? Yes. Has cast iron been around for hundreds of years? Yes. What did people use before? Typically, back in the old days, people used lard. And that's what I started with. That's why I wanted to strip that Lodge pan for you and show you, because I built up over the years and it got kind of sticky. Lard, my grandma, and probably yours too, used Crisco, and you can get a fine finish with Crisco. It just doesn't hold up as well over time. What this is, all in the world this is, it's grapeseed oil and canola oil mixed together at a certain blend rate, and they mix it with beeswax as a carrier. That's why it's called Buzzy Wax. And why grapeseed and canola? Because those two oils have a very high smoke point, much higher than your lard and everything else. And that's what you're doing with your seasoning. When you season a pan, you're not burning the seasoning onto there. You're getting the iron to accept what it is through heat. Iron is very porous. When you heat it up, the pores open up, the molecules expand, it grows, and what you're doing is you're getting that seasoning down into there. Why is it black? Oh, you just burned it. No, you're bringing that oil up past its smoke point, and the higher that smoke point, the better, because of the higher temperatures you can cook with. You're bringing it up past its smoke point, and it's actually changing its molecular structure. It's becoming polymerized. Basically, it's turning into a type of plastic. Not plastic that we're thinking of, but that's what gives it its non-stick texture. And the more you do that over time, it builds up more and more, and the pan becomes more and more non-stick from use. While we're waiting for this to heat up, let's talk about some myths of cast iron, because I heard them. Oh, you can't cook on an electric stove with cast iron. Oh, you for sure can't cook on a glass top stove with cast iron. BS. Because I cooked for years on a glass top electric stove with cast iron. Works just fine. You see, we've got a gas stove now here in this house, but and I typically like gas a little bit better. But the reason people say that about cast iron, you remember the pan I showed you to sit there and twirl? I already know exactly what happened to that pan. Somebody took it right out, just a room temperature pan, put it right on that burner on an electric stove and cranked it right up to high. Metal will warp. It does not like extremes, all right? Iron is a metal. It's one of the lowest metals, so it does not like extremes. You can't take it from extreme, just here, and bring it up to instant temperature, which electricity will do. It's going to warp on you. That's how that happens to those pans, and you can ruin your pan. If you're cooking with cast iron, I always try to bring it up low and slow. I bring it up to temperature first. If I'm going to be cooking at a higher heat, I start the pan out low, get it heated up first, and then gradually increase the heat. That way I don't warp it. Conversely, you don't want to cool it down too fast. You don't want to take a hot pan from right here and go stick it under cold water under your sink. It's liable, it could actually crack, not just warp. It could actually just split in two and break the pan. So bear that in mind. It'll take a few minutes for this to heat up, and we'll come back as soon as it's ready to go, and I'll show you how to maintain your seasoning. All right, so we got our pan heated up, and the reason I can tell it's heated up is I flipped it over, and it's hot. That's what I want it to be. I don't want it to be blazing hot, but I want it where I can't hold my finger on it. on the edges. We're not doing a full re-seasoning, we're just maintaining the seasoning that we've got on there. So again, I take my Buzzy Wax, you see I need to order some more, and I use these. It's kind of a flour cloth sack, it's lint-free. I call them diapers. Chanda gets mad at me because this is what they look like after I play with them, and she doesn't like that. I will tell you that get you 2 separate ones. I'm gonna use one here because this is what I do. Truthfully, I could probably re-season this pan and not have to put any of the Buzzy Wax on there, but I am just to show you because it holds it after time. But here's what I do. I've got it doubled over so I don't burn my silly self. I set it on there for just a second, just to, well, you can see right there, because it's still got a little bit of the oil in there. And we'll just, for demonstration purposes, take a little bit out. Now I'm gonna hold it with this because the handle is a little warm. And I'm just gonna wipe it into the pan like so. Be careful, don't burn your hands because it's easy to do. Ask me how I know. You can imagine, right? And go over it. And periodically, I don't do this every time, but periodically, because the bottom of your pan is seasoned too, and it takes a beating from taking the heat, periodically just do give it a little bit. Kind of evens out the appearance a little bit. Go around it like that. But here's the part that you got to do. Take a clean section of your cloth. I'm just folding this back over. We're going to wipe as much of that out of there as we can. We don't want all that excess oil. I'm going to wipe it down. I don't think I can get this cloth to suck any more out of there. So that pan's ready to cook in right now. All right, so I just showed you how to maintain your seasoning, but I didn't show you how to get the seasoning on there because we had the technical difficulties with the oven. So I'm gonna show you the Buzzy Wax method. I've been using this for a while now, and it works like a champ. I can't recommend it enough. There are other good products out there. Again, I used Crisco for years and worked great, but long-term storage, it can get rancid on you. Lard definitely will get rancid on you. This, you really don't have that problem. So all in the world you gotta do is first you gotta get your iron hot. How hot? 300 degrees. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this pan, we're gonna pretend that this one's down to bare metal. Every now and then you may want to just re-season your pan, so we'll go with that now. But if this were bare metal, we would do the process that we're about to do here at least 3 times before we ever cooked in this pan. But this pan, we're just gonna put a periodic re-season. We'll say it's a once a year or something like that, because you maintain your seasoning after every time you cook with it, but you can mess it up over time. You say you got something too hot, boil the season out, burn the season out. That's another thing. Never boil in cast iron. And also I would strongly recommend do not ever cook anything highly acidic, tomato-based products and things like that, because it can eat the seasoning out of your pan. So let's say we accidentally did that, and I have done it. You can do it some when you've got a super really good seasoned pan, but you're going to need to do this process afterward anyway. So let's say I cooked some tomato-based something in here, and I've got some splotchiness where the acid ate away my seasoning. We're going to re-season this pan. First thing I got to do is bring it up to temperature. I just put it in the oven, close it. This part I know the oven's capable of doing. Bake 300. Bake. All right. Let it get up to 300. Once it's at 300, leave it in there for 30 minutes. We'll take it out. We'll put a little seasoning on there. Then we're going to flip the pan up. I'll show you how to put the seasoning, because you just want to use a little bitty bit. And that's the thing. That's why my old pan is gummy now. I use too much. Didn't know I was doing it at the time. I did it. So I'll show you the right amount of seasoning to use on this pan once we get it up to temperature. Let it go in there at 300 degrees. Once your oven dings that you're at 300, let it sit for 30 minutes. We'll take it out, apply the oil, put it back in there upside down at 500 for an hour. Turn it off and let it cool down. All right, so our pan's up at 300 degrees, getting ready to apply the oil, and we'll show you. It does not take as much as you think it does. If you over oil it, you're going to get bad results, which is why I wanted to strip that other pan. Here we go. Use a good pot holder. It's real easy to burn yourself. Again, ask me how I know. Now this, we're just doing a periodic reseason. If I had taken this pan all the way down to bare metal like I wanted to, then, or the other pan down to bare metal, we would do the exact same thing. There's no difference whatsoever. The only difference is I would do what I'm about to do 3 times before I ever cooked in it. So all I want to do is I got my buzzy wax here, get my rag slightly hot. It just kind of helps. I don't get very much. And then I go over the whole pan. Apply, apply, apply. Make sure that you can see a little bit of a sheen all over the inside, every surface. Get that handle good. Get down in there. Get the back. See, I haven't even added any more oil. Still using what's on the rag. You may have to, and that's okay, but we're gonna wipe it off here in a second. Matter of fact, here, just to show you, I'll add a little more. Put some on this handle, make sure you get all the nooks and crannies everywhere around, especially if you're down to bare metal. Back of that handle, inside that hole. All right, so now what you wanna do, get you a separate cloth. See all this oil? Now we're gonna dry it off. Yeah, we wanna wipe off every bit that we just put on there. To us, it's gonna look like every bit. It's really not. You want this thing just as dry looking as you can get it. That oil, because the metal is hot, that oil is actually seeping down into the pores. And that's what we want. That's what's gonna give us our nice black color, and that's when it's gonna allow the pan to hold on to the seasoning. All right, wipe it out, think it's dry, dry it again. Because what'll happen is when we put this back in the oven, that oil that we don't get off of here is gonna pool. And it's gonna make this nasty little streaks and all kind of stuff, and it's not gonna look worth a flip. I mean, it doesn't affect cooking, but trust me, you don't want that. All right, so now I've got it dried off really good. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna put it in there upside down. Again, because you'll see the pooling from what little extra we've got. It'll be on there if we don't. We're gonna bring our temperature up to 500. All right, once it dings and gets up to 500, let it sit in there for an hour. When we get it out, we'll take it out, wipe it off, and we'll do that little process over on the stove just like we did, say we had just cooked in it. And that thing will have a nice glass sheen on it. We'll see you back then. All right, so this has been in here for about an hour now at 500 degrees. I'm gonna take it out. Go ahead and take it out. It's up to you what you wanna do. You can just hit the cancel button, turn it off, and leave it in there to cool down, but depending on your oven, that can take a long, long time to cool down for 500 degrees. This is about as most shock as I will ever give cast iron. Is I'll take it out of there and I'm gonna set it room temperature on a trivet and let it cool off. I've been doing this a while now. Some people may argue against it. They may know more than me. I don't know. This works for me and I haven't had any problems, and it allows me to get on with life a little bit easier. So I'm gonna just turn the oven off. This thing is going to be hot. Even with a pot holder, it is hot. Your pot holder is gonna smoke. Come over here and take a look at this. This is what we wanted. We wanted it to come out looking dry. I don't have any of that little pattern in there that you can see from oil pooling. So we did a good job on drying it out, but right now this thing looks really, really dry. We're gonna let it come down to temperature, you know, closer to room temperature where we can handle the thing. And then what we'll do to get it ready to cook is we're gonna carry it back over there to the stove and do with it exactly what we did with that dirty field after we washed it. You know how we heated it up and all that good stuff? It's all we're gonna do with this, but we're gonna let it cool itself down first and hopefully soak up more of that oil, and we'll see you back in a few minutes. Folks, we brought it back over here to the oven, the stovetop. and done the same process where we flipped it over upside down, let it get good and hot, flipped it over. Pan's hot, it's ready to take our little seasoning. So it's just like we did before. I'm gonna take the rag. I don't have a pot holder handy, but I'll use that, that'll work. Get a little bit of the oil on my rag, not much. That's the key, not much. Rub it in there, make sure I get all the dry spots. Sure I cover it thoroughly. Go ahead and just cover the rest of it too. And I just exercised every little bit of discipline I had not to yelp on camera, because my finger went underneath there and I got burned. All right. Just dry it back off now. And again, this is just a periodic reseason. It won't differ if you're starting out fresh. You'll do this 3 times. That's not gonna work. There you have it. That pan is now seasoned, ready to cook. You can fry an egg in there right now if you want to. Now all we did was just freshen up the seasoning on that pan. Again, if we were starting out fresh, had taken it to bare iron. There's one thing I forgot to mention. After you, if you're gonna do this process from start with a piece of iron you wanna restore, after you put it in the self-clean cycle, you are gonna bring it over to the stove, or the sink rather, and you will wash it thoroughly with, use a Brillo pad, use soap on it at that point. There's no seasoning for you to take off. Use what you need to get that thing clean as you can get it, dry it off real good, and then start this seasoning process. And you'll do 3 times. I was able to show you so that you get the idea. I hate that I couldn't show you from bare iron, but you would do this periodically with your cast iron anyway. This is not what you do every time. What you do every time is what you see me after I've cooked it and washed it, dry it off, put it on the stove, let it get hot, and just apply a little bit of oil, dry it, or wipe that back out, and you're good to go. And the more you cook in it, the better it's gonna get. If you're starting out with a fairly fresh pan, one that you've just seasoned and it hadn't built all that up yet, fry something in it. Fry you some potatoes, some good starchy something, because that really helps to strengthen your seasoning. And then over time, like with this Stargazer here, I love to make omelets in it because I get that much sticking without really using anything but butter. Put it in there, melt the butter, get my eggs going, make beautiful omelets, and I mean 0 stickage, almost no cleanup. And the key is learning your pan, learn what temperature to cook at, and don't immediately bring it up to high heat or anything like that. I hope this helped you guys. I know this is a long video, kind of covered a lot with cast iron, but I get asked so many questions about it. I wanted to just kind of do a one-shot with you. I would highly suggest that if you're on YouTube, go check out the Culinary Fanatic, Jeffrey B. Rogers. He has a video, and it's a tutorial I followed, where he does show you putting it in the oven, taking it down to bare cast iron, and bringing it back up using the method you just saw us here. It's a great video. And again, Cowboy Kent Rollins, can't say enough good about him. I've learned a ton from that man. There's a vast amount of knowledge about cooking, but about cast iron as well. And it's good family videos. He and his wife do a wonderful program. They put out new videos. I've used a lot of his recipes and really love them. Emma is such a fan. She actually at one point drew him a picture when we still lived in Vidalia, drew him a picture of himself and mailed it to him and wrote a letter, and he was nice enough to write back and actually featured her letter on one of his videos, and it just made her day. So check those guys out. They can really help you probably a lot more than I can. But thanks a lot.